very good evening to all of you. This is Ajaz Ahmed, Managing Director, Full Stack Academy. On behalf of our complete team, I would like to welcome you all for this demonstration session on AWS. We have our backend team, Mr. Saeed and Ms. Nazia, who are working relentlessly to bring this demo session to happen. So I would like to thank them for their sincere efforts towards building this demo session. On the other side, we have Mr. Zafar, who is a cloud architect, who is working for an MNC in Hyderabad. And as a cloud architect, he delivers his full-time at work. And besides that, he has a habit or he has a passion to give the training to the needy people on the cloud side. So today's session, Zafar is going to take you to the complete journey of AWS. It will be like for the beginners also, you will be able to understand it, and the pace and steadiness and the material will be fantastic from Zafar. And we have been like 4 batches we have completed, and we have got a good rating for all the sessions what happened initially. About a full stack academy, we last year we started this organization with an objective of engaging the people in the trainings which will eventually get the jobs. So we only conduct the trainings which has a job market. So we promisingly we deliver the training in majorly 4 areas right now. One is the cloud computing, where this demo session is about an AWS, and we'll have an Azure and Google Clouds as well in a future classes. And the second area is promisingly on artificial intelligence and a data science side. We are extremely doing very good on a data science side, and where we have continuous batches starting up. And not only from India, we also engage the data science batches from Mozambique, that is an African country where around 20 to 30 people are getting registered for data science course. So it is one of the technology which is going to be there for next decade. The third area where we are trying to give a training on a mobile app development, which is a React Native technology. So we are about to announce the demo session in the next week, inshallah, and where React Native, which is a hybrid platform to develop an Android and iOS applications. So that is also a promising technology. Now, a lot of job openings are there for React Native developers. The fourth and foremost area where we are also starting up a training in Microsoft.NET technologies. We believe that developers are heroes of the industry. Like a programmer will have a consistent job retain, as well as he will have an higher pay scale. He will have an around the globe opportunity for any programmer. Eventually he will slowly grow in his career, and there is no job kind of an recession for a programmer role. So we are promisingly starting a job guaranteed course in a .NET technologies for all fresh graduates who passed in 2019 and 2020. So kindly reach us and also refer to our website for more informations about these courses. So with this introduction, I believe I once again welcome you all for this demonstration. It was a day of heavy raining in Hyderabad. Still, Alhamdulillah, by God's grace, we are able to connect, and we are able to conduct this demonstration. So I thank all my staff members for organizing this. Now I would like to invite Mr. Zafar to take over by giving an introduction from his side and take over to the demo session. Thank you very much. This is Ajaz Ahmed, Managing Director, Full Stack Academy, signing off now. Thank you.
Sure.
Over
Thank
to
you,
you, Zafar
Ajaz.
sir.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So this is Zafar Iqbal. So as Ajaz sir has introduced me, I have been into this IT industry for over 15 years. So predominantly working in the area of cloud computing and DevOps. So which are the most happening technologies, and going to be trending technologies for next couple of years. So today, as part of this demo, so we'll try to keep it simple and crisp so that we don't uh, cover a lot of things as part of the demo itself, not to confuse you. Yeah, so as part of this demonstration, what we will be looking at is we'll try to understand the overview of what's cloud computing and its overview, and a little bit of AWS, brief history of Amazon Web Services. And there are different services. What are different services that are offered by AWS, and who are the customers that are using AWS, and why are companies switching from on-premise to AWS or any other cloud platform, and who all can learn AWS. Okay, so to begin with, so you all might have this question if you all don't have already any experience with any of the cloud computing platforms. So what exactly is cloud computing, right? So many of the people still do not understand if there is something that's actually on the cloud. People still think that, but cloud computing is a simple concept where the IT resources are provided to the end users um, as a pay-per-use basis. Okay, so to back it up with an example, let's say I'm a startup company and I want to build an application. Okay, to build that application, if I don't want to go with cloud, the other option I have is to use the traditional infrastructure concept, which is like um, hiring a developer and procuring a server and then installing the operating system on that server and installing the database, whatever applications are required to basically support this application, then enable this application to be accessed over internet. So there are sequence of steps that are happening, and all of these steps basically takes a couple of days of time. Okay, so since I am a startup and I don't have so much of bandwidth to spend time on these things, and at the same time there is also an upfront investment. So when I have to procure a server, that server will require a certain amount to be invested upfront. Okay, and at the same time I will also have to spend money on purchasing the license for the operating system, the database. So there is a lot of things that I will have to do upfront. Okay, so if so these challenges um, can be considered as the driving factor for the people, for the organizations, for the startups to basically switch from on-premise to cloud infrastructure. So as opposed to spending so much of time in uh, getting ready with this application, if people switch to cloud, what happens is all they will have to do is just log into any of the cloud portals. Like you can register with Amazon Web Services, you can register with Azure, you can register with Google Cloud Platform, and then the moment you are registered with them, you are able to spin up your server. The time that it takes for you to spin up that server is like 5 to 10 minutes, nothing more than that. And you will have all your licenses. You will have you basically have a catalog from where you can select what exact configuration of the server that you need, and what exact operating system that you need, what exact database you need. So all these things will be made available to you over the internet within few minutes. Okay, so you are basically instead of if you are if you are using an on-premise server, that would have taken you at least couple of days time and a lot of planning, because if you are launching an application, you would also have to think about how many users would be using this application. Okay, so if the demand increases in future, then you will also have to think about that. And when you launch an application, there is a possibility that the application might be a hit or it might not be. So if your application does not do well, there are no takers for this application. So basically, the amount that you invested to build this application will be waste, right? So instead of that, if you are using this cloud computing platform, you are getting these servers, you are getting your infrastructure ready in few minutes, and you will only be charged for the time you use this server for. For example, if I'm using a Windows 2019 server for like a few hours, I will only be charged for that for those many hours. And another advantage that I get is, let's say I am keeping this server on for 12 hours because I only work during daytime, and I want to stop this server during night because I'm not working on it at the. This is during the development phase. Okay, so what happens is if you shut down your server for 12 hours, you will only be charged for 12 hours. Okay, and later on, if you decide to terminate this instance because you have no takers for this application, then you can simply get rid of it without having to pay anything. I mean, there won't be any penalty for you, there won't be any additional charges for you. So only for whatever number of hours you have consumed, you have used this server, this infrastructure, for those many hours you will be charged. Okay, so that is basically cloud computing. So the in simple terms, cloud computing um, um, is a process where you are allowed to use a computer or server or any IT resource over the internet, and you pay for it for the number of hours you use. Okay, so in simple terms, that's the definition of cloud computing. So as I mentioned, servers can be accessed over the internet using web-based tools, and all the data, everything will be stored on the cloud. When I say cloud, the cloud is basically a data center which is not owned by us. So as a consumer, so if I am a company, I want to use resources in AWS cloud. So the data that I am saving as part of my application will be saved in AWS data center. So it is not saved in my a data center or my premises. It's instead saved in AWS data center, which I am accessing through internet. Okay. So just to talk a little bit about the global market size of cloud computing, it's growing huge, and it is expected to grow even more. So people are expecting it to grow by 182,300 $1 million by 2024. Okay, so this cloud computing. So any questions so far? If anything not clear. All right. So this cloud computing is divided into three categories. So there is a public cloud, and there is a private cloud, and hybrid cloud. Okay. So let's try to understand what exactly is a public cloud and private cloud, and what's a hybrid cloud. So public cloud is basically a place where all the application components are hosted in cloud. Okay, let's say you have an application. That application uses a front-end server and a back-end server, and there are some middleware layered software. So everything is hosted on cloud. So as a user or as a owner of application, you will be connecting to these resources over the internet. Okay. In term in comparison to public cloud, the private cloud is a cloud capability which is basically hosted within the data center of an organization. So the reason why people prefer to use private cloud is the companies who have um, compliance obligations, like the organizations who are in the financial domain, the pharmaceutical domain, those kind of domains, they will have these compliance obligations where they are not allowed to save their data in somebody else's premise. That is one of the reasons why people use private cloud. So in private cloud, what happens is the entire public cloud of capability, public cloud kind of capability is built within the infrastructure within the data center of the organization. So the organization, when it uses a private cloud, it has an option of using its own infrastructure. So it can procure its own infrastructure and build this private cloud, or it can also tie up with the private cloud providers who can build this capability for this organization, and they will manage the entire thing. However, this data will still remain on premise. It will not go out of this premise. Okay, so there are certain scenarios where um, you have to use a hybrid kind of environment. So what that means is you already have a data center, you have certain application components in your data center, but you want to also make presence in the cloud. So you want to extend your infrastructure in cloud. Okay, so when you have a combination of on-premise as well as cloud infrastructure, that is, this model is called as hybrid cloud. Okay, so this kind of model works for the existing organizations where you have an application. Let's say since these cloud providers, they have a huge infrastructure spread out in different regions. So if your infrastructure, if your on-premise data center is present in a single region, and you want to expand your infrastructure in some other region. So instead of you spending money and procuring the infrastructure in that particular region and hiring people, you can simply make use of the infrastructure in the cloud. So you will have a connectivity between your data center to the cloud provider's data center through dedicated links. So that what exactly are those dedicated links, we will cover as part of the actual training. So any questions regarding this public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud?
Okay, one question I have
Sure.
about, like,
Yeah.
let's say if you are developing any application from scratch, and so if it's not associated with any organization, let's say you are by your own developing an application, so which one would
Mhm.
be preferable? I mean, uh, because the price, is it,
Mhm.
the what I need to understand, the price varies, right? If you go with a specific cloud wise, if I'm using private then
Mhm.
and the hybrid, so regarding infrastructure wise and whatever requires to application, to build an application from scratch, so that price varies from cloud specific. If I'll go with public, then the price will be different, right, in this case?
Yeah. So if you are developing an application as an independent developer or as an individual, because you might not be spending money to build your own data center, right? So unless you have a specific requirement, like you want to run something, some legal obligations you have, you would definitely go with public cloud, because the one of the factors that determine whether your application does well or not is also based on the kind of application you develop, right? So if it's a new application, you don't know how your application does when it is actually launched, right? So only after seeing the acceptance, user acceptance for this application, or how it behaves in the market, then only you will think about spending money on procuring your own infrastructure. Before that, it will be like a research and development kind of work. So that is best. So public cloud is best suited for these kind of use cases.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, I actually was interested knowing which
Mm-hmm.
cloud suits which type of, kind of personnel. So public goes with any independent developer, and this private, I think, goes with the organization, and hybrid is mix of both, I think. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to understand. Like, I
I
cannot
mean,
go.
yeah.
Obviously, yeah, because I don't have that much, because I know the application is new, and the number of users would be not uh,
Mm-hmm.
kind of uh, more in number. So I wanted to understand that part actually. So yeah,
Yeah.
you
So I
answered my
mean,
question.
yeah. So yeah. So even that is basically determined by the nature of business that you are in. So basically, even if you are a startup company, right? So if you
Mhm.
are a startup companies, you would go with public cloud only, instead of investing money in the infrastructure. You would go with public cloud.
Okay, yep.
Okay. So let's move on. So So to understand the benefits associated with each of these types of clouds, a public cloud definitely gives us a high scalability. What I mean by this is, if we have to increase the capacity of the infrastructure, I can do it on demand. So it's highly scalable on the fly, and less complexity is involved in setting up everything, and this gives us this pay-as-you-go model. So depending on the number of hours we use the infrastructure, we'll pay for it. And private cloud, it's basically not shared with other customers. So the hardware is basically reserved for us, and it is more secure. The reason being, it is hosted in our own premise, so we have better control over the data than having this data on the public cloud. And it gives us good performance, because this will again be in the internal data center, and high reliability, and it also meets the regulatory compliance requirements that we have. Public cloud, so the hybrid cloud gives us a combination of both, gives us scalability, it also gives us more security, improved cost, because we are running this combination of we are making use of the existing infrastructure, as well as extending our footprint in cloud, gives us flexibility and higher performance. Right. Coming to the benefits of this cloud computing itself. Uh, so this pay-as-you-go model is one of the unique selling features of this entire concept. and it's available 24/7 because the infrastructure is huge, and there are a lot of customers using the infrastructure. So it's basically a shared infrastructure. That's why it has to be available 24/7. We can scale up and scale down easily, and we have better security because if we have our own infrastructure, we might not focus so much on security because we feel that the data is already on premise and external people do not have access to it. So we might have certain aspects of security covered if the data is already in premise. Whereas if the data is, since this data is on the shared infrastructure, the chances of data getting um, accessed by unauthorized people are more. So that's why they have highest standards of security. What that means is they have a multi-layer security implemented. There is a hardware layer security as well as software layer security. Okay? So the entire infrastructure is accessible through internet, and there are multiple ways we can we can make use of this infrastructure, not only through the portal, but we also have options of connecting to it through command line interfaces and software development kits. So it's all application programming interface based. That's why it gives us a lot of flexibility to do a lot of automation work and all those things. Okay, so coming to the service model, so this cloud computing services are divided into basically three categories. Basically, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service. So if we try to understand any of the application environments, so the application stack is made up of three components. So for first component is basically the metal piece of um, uh, the application stack, which is basically the hardware. So hardware comprises of this the storage, the network, the firewalls that we get, and the CPU, the memory, all those components make up the hardware part. So if we are only using the hardware, so we want to install our own operating system to launch our application. So if we subscribe to that kind of service, it is called as platform as a service. So in platform as a service, only the hardware part of the infrastructure is made available to us, and we will have to install our own operating system, any middleware applications, middleware software that is required to run our application. All those licensing costs we will have to bear, and the maintenance of the hardware is the responsibility of the provider who is providing us this service, whereas the application data and the operating system part, it's our responsibility to manage. So if there are any patches that have to be installed on the operating system, that we will have to take care of it. Okay. Coming to the infrastructure as a service, so infrastructure is basically a combination of a hardware and the platform part of it, which is the operating system. If we subscribe to a database service or any other middleware software, if we use a combination of both, it becomes infrastructure as a service. So in infrastructure as a service, our responsibility is limited to maintaining the application and the application data. Rest everything, the onus, the main management and the maintenance and everything is the responsibility of the provider. So what that means is, if there is any hardware failure, then there will be a service level agreement between us and the provider. So if there is a breakdown that happens to the hardware or to the operating system, or anything that goes wrong, so they will be the one who will be fixing it. Okay. So there is another model which is called as software as a service. So you must have used applications like Facebook. You must have used ServiceNow, Salesforce. These are the applications which are the examples of software as a service. Okay, so the entire application stack, along with the hardware and the middleware section, the operating system, and whatever it takes to run this application, is offered to us as a service. Okay, so we all right. So I was talking about this service models. So we covered platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service. In software as a service, the entire application, including the hardware and the operating, the platform, is owned by the software as a service provider, the vendor. All we, as end users, all we will have to do is to basically register with this, create our own account, and start using this application to run our business. So in this case, the entire application and the stack is managed by the application vendor. We don't have to do anything. Only we have to pay for the amount of usage. So there will be different kinds of licensing for software as a service um, model. Basically, it will be based on the number of users who will be using this application, or number of servers that we would be hosting this on. So that will be the model in which the charges are levied on the customers. Okay. Any questions regarding this platform as a service, any of the service models? Okay, so coming to the uh, usage of this cloud computing. So presently, different types of businesses of all sizes, and no matter where they are located, and what kind of industry they are into, everybody is looking at adopting cloud services. The reason being the flexibility that it gives, the auto scaling capability, the security, and the speed at which the company is looking um, to grow in their businesses can only be done using this cloud computing. So we will discuss how exactly that all can be achieved in the training. So there is a organization called RightScale, which is into this market research, and they have done a research of this cloud computing usage. So currently, there are like 4% of customers who are using private cloud, and 20%, 21% are using public cloud. And there are 71% of the organizations who are using hybrid cloud. So they have presence in cloud, as well as they have their own infrastructure. Okay, coming to the earnings, the spendings of the big organizations. So on AWS being one of the oldest cloud computing platforms that is available. There is a customer, a Lyft organization, who basically spends about $300 million, and they anticipate to uh, spend same amount till 2021. Okay, same thing goes with other organizations. Apple also spends like $350 million per year just for this iCloud and other services. Okay, coming to the services. So AWS is basically a cloud computing platform. Like we just discussed about what exactly is a cloud computing. Cloud computing is a platform where we can use resources to run our application owned by somebody else. So exactly the same way, this AWS is one of those cloud computing platforms who have their own data centers, and they allow the IT resources like applications, compute, storage, networking. Those are made available to the users, to the organizations who will use their services and pay them based on the usage. So this is basically a comprehensive platform. What that means is there will be different kinds of applications that will be required by any organization to run its IT infrastructure. So since AWS has 300 plus services into different categories like compute, storage, networking, different kinds of applications, databases, firewall, everything they provide as a service. So if an organization which do not want to own anything and still want to run their business using only AWS, they will be able to do that. They will not have to buy a single device. If they want to just use that's AWS cloud platform and run their entire business, they will still be fine. Okay, so to talk a little bit about AWS history, AWS was launched in the year 2002 with limited services. Each service, they had like three services. Each of them were independent services offered as a service to the customers. And then they repackaged the packaged three services together and relaunched in the year 2006. So those services are simple queuing service and Elastic Cloud Compute, which is basically a virtual server in the cloud, and History storage service. And once they've relaunched in the year 2006, the people have started using AWS, and by the time it was 2015, AWS has started making a huge revenue. Their revenue was basically $4.6 billion, and it kept growing. And in a span of 1 year, it just doubled. So it crossed $10 billion, from $4.6 billion to $10 billion. Okay, so presently they have 66 availability zones. Availability zones are nothing but Amazon Web Services data centers. So each data center has a huge amount of IT infrastructure, and these 66 data centers are located in 20. So the current number is like 23 different geographic locations. So we also have one data center, so basically two data centers in India, which are located in Mumbai. So like this, we have in US, we have in Europe, we have in Middle East, almost all parts of the world, we have AWS data centers. So we have better availability offered to us, since their data centers are spread across the globe. So coming to the services, different services AWS offers. So as I mentioned, they have 300 plus services, out of which all the services have been categorized into groups based on the functions that they offer. So if we have to use for compute purpose, we can use Amazon EC2, Elastic Beanstalk, and Lambda. We'll discuss about each of these services. So these are the different types of services that we get to use as when we subscribe to Amazon Cloud Platform. Okay, coming to the customers who are actually using AWS. So AWS has about um, so there are a huge number of millions of users who are registered. So each user who is registered with AWS basically gets a account. Okay, so they have millions of accounts that have been created, which means those are the number of users AWS has. Coming to the amount of revenue that is generated by AWS from the top 10 customers. So Netflix pays like 19 million dollar, and there are other companies like Adobe, ESPN, BBC. So these are the big names, but they have a lot of small startups, startups who also extensively use this Amazon Web Services platform. So coming to the market capture, market share that AWS has over the other competitors. So it stands at 32.3% market share. This was in the year 2018 quarter 4. So the numbers are even higher now. And the second is Microsoft Azure, which stands at 16.5%, then followed by others. Okay, and to learn this, okay, so there are few of the benefits, just to see what exact benefits that we get by switching to the cloud from on-premise infrastructure. This gives us an ability to do faster deployments, and we can eliminate the need to spend money on running and maintaining data centers. Okay, since if we own the data centers, we will have to manage the entire IT infrastructure, which is why there will be a lot of cost that have to be the cost has to be invested in maintenance activities. That's all eliminated if we switch to cloud. And we have almost zero upfront investment if we switch to the cloud. AWS offers both horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. So horizontal scaling is basically based on the demand. I'm able to spin up more instances. I'm able to meet the demand for the application on the need basis. So it's all done automatically. I don't have to make any configuration post I have deployed my application. Okay, and the amount of time it takes for me to go to market is significantly reduced because I have everything already available. So all I have to do is, if I have my application code, all I have to do is just spin up the server with right configuration and just push my code. My application will be up and running in minutes. Okay, so these are the benefits of AWS. Okay, so coming to the prerequisites of what we need to know if we have to do well in this in learning AWS. Although this is not absolutely mandatory, but having some familiarity with these concepts will give us an edge. So knowing client server computing, a little bit of networking knowledge, storage knowledge, security, and operating systems. If we already know these things, it will become very easy for us to learn AWS. And AWS happens to be one of the most sought after certifications. It has been this way consistently for a couple of years, and these AWS certifications also, I mean, one of the top paying certifications. I mean, if you are an AWS certified professional, your um, compensation is comparatively higher than other fields too. Okay. So as part of this training, so we will complete this entire course in 35 days. We will cover these modules. So this once we complete this course, we will be in a position to take up AWS Associate Solutions Architect